Okay, here we are on the meet.google.com homepage for Google Meets. Don't worry if your page looks a little bit differently. This image is going to rotate. Google likes to give us different art pieces on their websites, so it might look a little different, but you'll know you're in the right place when you see Google Meet at the top left and join or start a meeting on the right. Make sure you're logged into your North Bronx Power account, and you can always click at the top right of your screen to make sure that you're logged in to your North Bronx Power account and not another Gmail or a family member's Gmail. This way you'll be connected with the school much easier. Join or start a meeting is going to be your first place if you are just going to create a meeting or if you have a meeting code or nickname shared by somebody else. So if you know one, you can type one in. If you were shared one from a team, perhaps, you can type that in and join an existing meeting. But if you're starting your own meeting, you would type in your own meeting name. The social studies team used this earlier in the week. We created NBESS as our nickname for that meeting. I suggest making it simple and easy to find or easy to type in and remember if you're going to create a custom name. Continuing is going to bring us into kind of a waiting room. Here I am getting a second to check in on my audio and visual settings on Google Meet. But I'm not in the meeting yet, so I have not actually gone live with anybody. I'm just able to kind of check in on my audio and visual options. Here is where you can decide that you'd like to go in with no camera. You can still be heard. Notice on the side I can see that my voice is connecting. If I wanted to be seen but not heard, I can shut off my mic. You're still hearing me because I'm recording on Screencast-O-Matic, but if I was in the Google Meetup, I would not be heard. It might be an option, and it is actually really good etiquette to come into meetings with your microphone off until you realize how that meeting is going to be held. Somebody may be presenting or speaking, and you don't want to join a meeting and jump right in there and interrupt. So you can always play with those options when you're actually in the meeting. Present is another function to share your screen as opposed to sharing your visual. I'll show you what that looks like when you join now and enter the meeting. This is all the information that you would copy and share if you'd like to have a Google meeting that you've just created and now you want to invite people. Meet.google.com, and this is now your code. You can directly share this link. You might decide that you want to copy and paste it onto your class stream. Perhaps you can do that in Google Classroom and people can join you that way. You can copy it and now it is on your clipboard, so anytime you go to paste, it is going to paste all of this information. You can add people this way. If you'd like to add direct people on our North Bronx Power account, you see there are already people that I've been connecting with on Google Meet. I can click specifically on them and invite them in, or I can type in somebody's name and they will pop up and I can invite them directly. Any invitations or any people in the actual meeting will show up on the side, and as more people join, the screen will change. You'll see different people will pop up. If people are sharing their screen, you'll still be able to see them on a camera. Lots of options for Google Meet. Mostly your choices between Zoom and Meet are going to be based on your preferences and your students' preferences. And the more you play with either tool, the more you're going to be able to really figure out which one is going to work for you. You have your chat option, so people can send questions or they can just say hi to each other during a meeting, so you have that option. You see how we're using that option in our NBE meetings where people record questions and then the host goes back and answers later. These are both options for you. I just clicked off of that and it kind of hides and keeps us just there. Now you can also, like we said before, play with the option of turning your microphone off or on, your camera off. And I know some people ask the question about how an image can be displayed as opposed to my image or my face, rather. This is actually my profile image on Google. So if you're into your options in your actual Google account, you can change this icon to appear any way you want. I chose a headshot. You may have somebody else who would like to choose a sports team, perhaps a famous historical person, an NBE logo, lots of options you can personalize. That's one of the joys of being online. You also have the options to turn on the captions. I'll turn that on for a second so that you can see. It's pretty accurate depending on how clear you're speaking and your microphone capabilities. It might also help your students to be able to read the captioning as you are talking, if that is an option you are going to do for your live classes. Present Now is an option where you can present a window or your entire screen, and you would be sharing what you're seeing, and this is a cool way where we've already connected in different meetings where teachers can share their desktop. I've even heard of students sharing their desktop in live classes already, so that's exciting that we are jumping right in. If you wanted to leave the meeting, sorry, those are other options for you that you can play with on the side. Anytime you see a little three dot image, you can usually click on it and you'll get more options. But I am just going to close that image or that meeting now. I will bring us back to meet.google.com. Remember, I said that there was nothing scheduled today, but very quickly I will show you how you can schedule a meeting through Google Calendar. So I already have my Google Calendar loaded up. Calendar.google.com is your home page. This is where you can schedule meets for yourself, for your teacher teams, or for your classes. So I have access to a bunch of different classes and they're all color-coded. So you may have different questions, assignments, things that pop up on your calendar. Notice that somebody has an assignment that's due today, the 6th grade check-in circle. So that's popping up on the calendar as a due date. If I'd like to make a meeting, let's say I'm going to set up a meeting at 2 o'clock and I'd like it to be a recurring meeting. You can single click. I like the double clicking option. It brings up a few more options for you. And let's say we're going to set up our weekly class. Just like we did at Zoom, we get the options to set up a class on today's date from 2 to 3. We'll keep it in our time zone. This is your option for repeating classes. So if I would like this to be a repeating meeting, you can weekly on Tuesday. Google is recognizing that you are creating a meeting for Tuesday, so it would like you to create a weekly meeting every Tuesday. It can be annually on March 24th, or you have the option for custom. Custom opens up something that's a little bit easier to manage for us repeating our weekly meetings. Perhaps this time we'll make a meeting to happen every day from 2 to 3 from Monday through Friday. You can set a repeating time, how often it's going to repeat, and this would be if it would be repeating every week or every other week. Clicking done is going to give you now weekly on weekdays as the option to create this assignment, or excuse me, create this meeting. Now, the really important thing, the way that you make this a meeting is where it says add conferencing. You want to click add conferencing and you will now click Hangouts Meet, which will generate a link for a new Google Meetup. So you are now creating a meet in advance with a code and connecting it to this weekly class event. You can add notifications. You can ask it to set up a notification which will pop up on Google, or an email to send before the meetup is going to happen, so you could remind people that your class is about to go live. And you could also add a description as we did on Zoom. So join us live every weekday. Now, we've created a Google Meetup. It is about to be saved, but before you do that, you may want to add guests. So you have the option to add an entire classroom at the same time. So if I'm making a weekly class for my students, I would want to invite them or have them have access to my weekly class. I could type in or begin to type in the name of my classroom, and I get some options. This option will send a notification to your actual classroom. Notice the classroom logo. This option is going to send to each of your individual students that are connected to the classroom. So if I click NBE Social Studies, all of my students, I can expand so I can see that all of the students and teachers that are part of my class have now been or will be invited to my meetup. I don't want to allow my students to modify the event. I could allow them to invite others, but I'm going to uncheck that option and they can see the guest list. In this case, their guest list is their class. However, in future meetings or for teacher meetings, it might be helpful for people to see who will be present at a meeting. So I would invite all these people by clicking Save. Instead of doing that, I am going to remove so that all of my students don't see this weekly meeting because I'm not prepared to do that yet. But if I click Save, notice that my calendar has now generated my weekly class, 2 to 3 o'clock p.m. And by clicking on it, I can see the information. So if I'm a Google Calendar person, I can join the meet from here. I have the information joining by phone. I can even email guests and send out some information prior to the meeting. Maybe I can ask my students to come prepared with something to the meeting. If I didn't think of it in advance, I can just send it in a quick email over to all the people invited to that session. That is in Google Meetups in your calendar, but if I click back to my meet.google.com, notice my weekly class has now popped up as a scheduled meeting. When it goes live, it will say happening now, and students can click into it. I can join now because I'm the host, but my students will be able to join it when it becomes live. So now you have another option of how you can access your Google Meetings, schedule your scheduled meetings or weekly conferences with students, and how you can attach them into your Google Drive classroom.